Before we start, a quick word of warning. This video will have a lot of flashing lights, a severe amount of flashing lights. The footage you see has been desaturated and, where applicable, reduction in the intensity of the flashing lights has been taken. Despite this, if you suffer from photosensitivity or are prone to seizures, you cannot watch this video. It will trigger an epileptic or photosensitive attack. If you continue, then that is on you. Viewer discretion is advised and encouraged. Let's cut to the point. You want a guide to this random indie game you've never heard of, or potentially heard of, and play. You got filtered, or just didn't understand what is going on. And you've clicked on this video to get a grasp, or potentially just get a boost to that understanding. Let's start off simple. The Desolate Hope is a 2D platformer with RPG 3D real-time fights. Pressing the escape key will close the game, so be sure not to fat finger it. Once you launch the game, we are not talking story, at all, so skip that. Starting off, you have a hub. Here you can get into the main training simulation and check the Lun Infinite's status. Don't worry about the time limit, it has absolutely zero effect on the game because you are given far too generous a room for error. Take a right and you'll get to the hallway. You have 5 rooms, but only 4 will lead you into the 4 gameplay areas. Walk all the way down and take a left into Malenz's room. This hydraulic grunge machine enthusiast is the first zone you are forced into. This is your tutorial area. Hop into the Malwastes and welcome to the platforming section. To the left, we have Boxcar and a platform. Boxcar here has conditionals, but you'll be missing out on a majority of them. If you want to unlock them fast, then up there in the top right, you'll have a guide to get the subnets quick and easy like. For now, you'll be taking the platform up and going all the way to the left until you reach a drop here, and into the lovely Malenville you shall arrive. Get acquainted with Algo. He is one of the merchants who will give you permanent upgrades for a price, of course. But let's go back to those subnets. Each simulation, of which there are 4, has a set of subnets or access points. These access points are best for 2 things, conditionals and chip farming. First, the conditionals. As per the name, they trigger upon a condition. Here is a list of all the conditionals and the bonuses you can acquire from them. There isn't any right or wrong combination for a vast majority of the game, and you can pretty much play around with this however you please. However, notice my wording, vast. This will be important for later. Next is chip farming. Chips are currency and you'll be needing a few initially, so that begs the question, how do you gain a good amount? Chip farming. Chip farming is delving into a subnet and using the enemy spawning to your advantage. If you clear the crank, enemies will spawn. If you go back and forth, eventually you'll trigger a group and get those cabbage patches. Now this rabbit here, a bunny, if you would, I call him Bob. Bob here will eat the cabbage patches. Said patches will give you 4 to 5 chips, but I can hear you asking, that's slow, am I doomed to farm for an hour to get what I need? Only half of that. We have another helpful tool, drillhands. See, old rock composite antithesis here has upgrades for you, one of which is cabbage value. You can get this value upgrade twice, 500 and 1000 chips respectively. The damage and range upgrades are great too, but focus on that value first. The first value upgrade makes every cabbage patch worth 2 chips, for a total of 4 to 5 bites. There's 8 to 10 chips on return. The final value upgrade is 1000 chips and makes every cabbage patch worth 3 chips, for a total of 4 to 5 bites. That would be 12 to 15 chips on return per patch. Personally, I grind out both upgrades and get about 900 chips afterwards for 2 upgrades. Most of the bosses drop enough to progress. Usually. Why do I farm up to 900? Because of this Robotic Fetus right here. Robo Baby Sporting Goods has some needed tools for progression, that being the hover pack and water boots.
Dang, I wanted these boots myself. But they'll look real nice with your outfit.
The hover pack allows for extra mobility and the water boots is necessary for the next stage of the game. But you're tired of hearing this. What about the main hurdle? This red glowing cyst that you were told to find? First, there are 3 in the Malwastes. Here, here, and here. I'll only be showing the last boss of each simulation. See, each simulation has 4 bosses. You fight each at least 3 times, with 2 exceptions. For Malenz's simulation, it'll be Terro Totik. Now, before you get giddy, I highly suggest you go into the training simulation to get an idea of what you're working with. I'll be using a lot of terms, so keep up. Starting off, let's talk player turns. Every character has a different level of priority. Who goes first is determined by speed, so if Malenz gets that bar up first, here with this little white, he can make a move. If Beta and Mirad are second and third, they go second and third. Easy. When you get derelicts to higher levels, it'll be a crapshoot of who goes first, so be swift and always be prioritizing. When the battle starts, you'll be prioritizing Alphus with Proto Wall. Damage is not ideal in the current moment. You'll always start back-footed in every boss fight, so playing defensive for the first few seconds of the battle is imperative. If you don't get that flow down, then it'll be pulling teeth. The battle is constant, no turn-based slowdown here. If you take time, then you'll take damage. This is where a majority of the difficulty comes from, ignoring the obvious overwhelming look of everything. Very pretty, but daunting to understand. Each derelict specializes somewhat in classical RPG character roles, though if you wanted a tank then you'll be sorely disappointed. Mirad is solely for long-term buff storage. Each bauble will pop up in the top right. Baubles are these little clickable buttons, by the way. They gain value over time, but can be increased by using Mirad's abilities. Again and again. Mirad's abilities are thus: Psycracker, Store Strike, Heal, Autoplay, Charge, Invulnerability, and Revive. The last ability is a minigame. We'll get to those in just a moment. Strike is damage buildup. Heal is self-explanatory and pretty much useless. Autoplay is for minigames. Charge gives you charge pips. Invulnerability makes you immune to damage, and Revive revives. Psycracker, I need to take you aside. See, I lied a bit about Heal because it and Psycracker go hand in hand. How? See, Psycracker's damage is based on the stored healing amount. Before you ask, does it scale well? Very well. That's why I call healing pretty much useless, as another ability relies upon it for its damage output. Very bad. Charge and Invulnerability are the ones I recommend you focus upon. Strike, Autoplay, and Revive will pop up at their own time and are for later in the fight. Dragon is her minigame and is a small bullet hell. Now I got ahead of myself and didn't explain the green pips. See, these green pips are your charge meter, and you get 2 to 3 at random every time you press the charge button. It's a careful balance of getting enough charge to hit him where it hurts and still live. The charge bauble alleviates this, as it'll take some stress off you, but it takes a bit of time to set up. Every derelict has 7 moves and 1 minigame. No freebies, you gotta charge up. But now you're asking, alright, I got most of that, but what about those minigames? What do they do? If you press the button, then a minigame will pop up in the top left. These minigames reward you with egg bars. Red, yellow, blue, and green. Health, attack, defense, and speed, respectively. This is your only way to get these bars in combat, and they can turn the tide of battle. Each minigame will, at the start that is, give you a variety of egg bars, but you can configure them if you click on the little box to do whatever you like. You can go all red, all blue, mess around, and see what works for you. I recommend at least 2 minigames with speed, and the other 2 can be what you wish. If you go to the training simulation, you can configure these boxes, and it'll remember it with every fight. That's great, but wait, I have to play the minigames whilst fighting the boss? There is the catch. This is where autoplay comes in. It'll autoplay the minigames for you, but you'll have to keep it topped up if you want those egg bars. If you don't, then the minigames will simply just end once you have lost them. Now, next on the card, we have Alphus. Alphus can be considered the tank, generally, from this one ability, Proto Wall. Proto Wall will block every attack, yes, even status effects in some instances, and will be the lifeline for every fight. You might be confused, surely you can heal, right? Wrong. Healing is an illusion, and the cleric schools will not help you here. Alphus's primary purpose is just to build a dome, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, if you feel confident or risky, then the other moves also exist. Wallop is helpful for delaying, not so much damage, but it can reduce the enemy's charge bar. Grid Turret is an APC which periodically shoots. It shoots fast. Taser Pod hits fast and stutter stuns. A stutter stun is a stun that barely lasts 2 seconds, by the by. Counterbot, my beloved. Whenever the enemy hits you with Counterbot, it whacks them right back with the same damage they dealt. Even with Proto Wall, it still gives the boss a good wallop. Medbeacon heals, but that's useless. The real kicker is healing status effects. That'll be handy later. Solar Ball is disappointing, and the loser of the bunch. Hitting 3 times isn't all that much when Alphus is priority for other abilities. Looks cool though. Now we get on to Malenz, the hydraulic-powered damage and stutter-stunning god. He can be considered the primary damage dealer. Quick Repair is both a revive and healing spell, more revive-centered rather than healing. Thrice Claw is a 3 attacks and poison status effect. Poison isn't much, but it tries its best. Spike Plate and Armor Plate are attack and defense buffs. Grid Storm is a multi-hit storm and you will hear lightning strikes constantly if you press it. It also seems to have a high crit chance, but that could be my inherent luck stat being high. Stun Rain is the greatest and longest stun you'll get. The damage is okay, but it's more utility than a big hitter. Mega Charge is busted. Every other derelict, except Malenz, will get full charge. Yes, you can combo this in order to pop only Mega Charge over and over again. It's as exploitable as it sounds. But I don't do that because it'd be far too easy. Old West is his minigame and it's a mini light gun-esque romp. Could it even be considered a light gun game without a light gun? Shoot the targets, click on them. Simple. Last, we have Bio Beta. Supercharge Duplicity, a speed boost and dodge increase. Do not doubt Duplicity, for it shall save you on more than one occasion. Speed is self-explanatory and you'll feel that sluggish crawl turn to an F1 car once you pop it. Burn and Slug Virus, one damages over time and the other halves the enemy's speed. Toy Virus is funny because it is, in effect, the ultimate stun. Turn the boss into a harmless toy for a few seconds. They can't attack, defend, or even charge up, and all the stats they have are reduced to 0 for that stun period. Break Virus destroys armor and attack values for the boss. Toxin Laser applies every debuff and does a smidgen of damage. Spam this. You'll understand why. This is the basics. But wait, there's more. Battle hacking is a skill. Don't get too excited, it's not that useful. Good for getting an early upper hand, but it quickly becomes a do not die button later on. You can hack multiple things: enemy health value, attack, defense, and speed. Give yourself all the buffs for a short period of time, and every bauble up at the top right. But you'll see that later on. I'll explain how to get it soon. The next is Tweak. Tweak is acquired with Boxcar and is a conditional. Once the bar here fills up, you'll get 2 bars to choose from. On the boss's side, Cap Max HP, Blindness, Poison and Burn Enhance, and Null Charge. Cap HP isn't useful and is a narrative device which will lead into criticism later. Blindness is busted. The enemy can hit you with physical attacks. Burn and Poison Enhance multiplies damage over time by a factor of 3, only for Poison and Burn. That's the important bit, only for them. Null Charge prevents the enemy from reaching max charge, but you gotta keep clicking when the tweak is up in order to prevent a move from going off. On our side, we have Max HP, Defense and Attack, Auto Charge Neon Storm. Max HP is a dud. You'll get a smidgen here and there, but it isn't worth it. Defense and Attack, however, are plus 20 to the Strength or Defense stat. If you're asking, can I check my stats? No, you cannot. Just eyeball it. Neon Storm is a multi-hit storm that will charge automatically, and before you ask, can it crit? It can. Most things, except debuffs, can critically strike. You can avoid using these since conditionals are highly customizable, but I just have a Frankenstein's Optimal because I have a video to make. Before I let the fight play out raw to give you an idea, here are the virus locations for Terro Totik, again, just in case you forgot. Ready? Here's the boss. That fight lasted for 1 minute and 29 seconds. Now here's a singular frame of how much damage Strike did. It critically hit him. 4,007 damage from one bauble. Very nice. Every fight will give you chips to spend away should you win. If not, it's back to the infamous and finding the virus again. You'll also have seen a particular frozen man, or rather tin can. This is Amos, a secret character you can acquire. All you have to do is wait for night. See, nighttime in the Desolate Hope, or TDH, is when you get to level up your derelicts. You can get 6 items during this phase: a toy, painting, clock, and snow globe, the other 2 being a chip cache and a battery to increase the time you have. You can carry 2 things back and fast track back to the station, but the time you have to gather these things is limited, so use it wisely. But you're wondering, hey buddy, you said that Amos is found in the nighttime. Let's hear it. Of course. At a quarter, technically roughly at a quarter of the timer in the top right, no wrong, top left, you'll know it's working when you see space invaders pop up. Ignore them, you'll be walking to the left until you can't anymore. Make sure to have an empty slot, because once you reach all the way to the left, here it is, Coffee's old wrench. Back to the station and into this frozen side room next to Alphus. Go up to Amos, whack that computer chip and bang. It's just that easy. Now, at random, Amos will now appear in battle. Given he will randomly show up, he is invincible and has 5 pretty strong abilities. Pep Talk gives you every buff and revives. Frostbite is much like Solar Balls, except it works. Multi-hit attack, still a bit disappointing considering all the other moves. Ice Bomb can track the damage you do, and once 60 seconds have passed, all that accumulated damage will hit the target in one fell swoop. And yes, it can critically hit. Snowflake protects you against every buff for a short period of time, and Chill Charger outright stops the enemy from charging up to max for a set period of time. All argue to be used, but Ice Bomb is a bit of a dud. You'll be out damaging it before it can fully take effect, so if you're doing a low level run, it's more useful. But aside from that, it's only used on the last boss, and secret boss. So you've gotten Terro out of the way, where to next? Despite being given free-range access to every simulation after you talk with Malenz, there is a progression path, although it's not shown to you. And it goes like this: Malenz, Mirad, Biobeta, and then Alphus. Next up, under the sea, and fighting a Manatee. Well, not really. See, as far as we can dive deep, so too shall it be a quick splash. Here down under the sea, you shall find Manatee, not human but rather crustaceous. Carcinization claims another sea dog. Manatee over here can be found here, here, and here. This foul-clawed delinquent will be the first taste, if Terro wasn't, of an issue: one-shotting. The boss will always be faster than you, and as such you'll essentially be playing the game of who wants to take their first turn, and often losing fights before they begin, because, again, the boss is faster than you. You'll have seen it in Terro, where originally I wanted to fight him fair and square, however he spat at my fair fight so I shot him down like the dog he was. Anyway, about battle hacking. How does one battle hack? Simple. In Miradmoore you will find ghosts, but right down the second waterhole you'll be shooting at a fake wall and rising to the top and entering this little tucked away corner. Here you shall find one individual, Uunom. I do not like this tall thing, Charlie. Its smugness mocks me. Why? Because of one purchasable option, but we will get to that later. For now, battle hacking, battle region, and of course, auto half price. Battle hacking allows you to use hack chips, giving yourself an advantage. A fighting chance, actually. Battle regen is a bit useless, but long-term value, I suppose. Auto half price pays for itself. Not literally, but in the long term. Whatever store you visit will automatically have their goods at half price. So it's 500, then it'll be 250 with this purchased. This is useful for another merchant, but enough about purchasing. Here's the virus locations again. Let's talk Manatee. Now Manatee here is the first taste of a proper boss with moves, with charge bars. You'll see a lot of different moves, but most do the same. Some exceptions, of course, but mostly the same. Digitoaster, Radeon Alpha, and such are group shots. More often than not, it'll be a full wipe because the damage values are insane. You won't have to worry because Proto-Wall is the answer to everything. That and something else. But Manatee here has a very annoying spell, or rather move. It's called Hackworm. I'll let the footage speak for itself. And another warning for eye strain. See the horrid flashing? You'll see it happen a few more times throughout this video, and it is as annoying as it looks. But Manatee, well, not much to say for this crustacean since I'm some random no-name, let's put them in a tier list. I'm feeling a strong C for Manatee and a B for Terro in terms of design. Now we move on to Bio Beta. This right here, beautiful, functional, insanely futuristic. Despite this, I do not like Betagrid 09, because it's unique in that it has many hidden walls. Remember, those X-ray goggles from Robo-Baby Sporting Goods? Well, if you struggle here, then you'll need those. Otherwise, it's just a mind kerfuffle in navigation. Despite those ills, we have one of the better designed bosses, Puppeton. Look at those globes on him. Ooh, brass as well. Oop, I forgot. Here's Algo's upgrades in Miradmoore. He is so powerful, he gets his own puddle. Enemy debuff timer bonus, player debuff reduction for how long it lasts, weaken increments, accuracy, and dodge. The debuff timer reduction and weaken increment is the best. Accuracy falls to the waysides, and dodge... If you really feel you aren't living long enough, then invest into some dodge chance. Also, here is Payload. He sells what he finds. Just hack chips, but good on him for trying. Where were we? Alright, Betagrid 09. Here is the locations for our beloved brass idol. Straight up flowing with those orbs. Circadian rhythm. Elevated beyond reasonable doubt. Not even that wasted biological reprobate could stop him. He is him. He will continue to be him. 100% beta layin'. Now that fight was long. It'll only get longer. A good tip is to always have a hack chip because one of terrible things. Getting every debuff is terrible, but one in particular, which is coming up, will leave you stumped and wondering, was this playtested? Or alternatively, this is beyond cruel. One of the two. Algo, in the Betagrid, sells increase to the bar bonuses and some extra minigame time. Those bar bonuses are incredible. Be sure to pick them up fast. You'll be needing them. Battle Start Life ain't much, but it honestly works. Now, onto the last area before we confront my personal favorite boss. Oh yeah, and Puppeton is, an A in terms of design. I do quite enjoy some brass and golden-hued copper. The Alphon domes, my hated. Not because it is difficult, but rather the music playing is an absolute nightmare for me because it only is a few decibels too high on my left ear, but then it goes to my right ear, and then it bugs me. Also, the boss here is just a nuisance and not really fun to fight. If you didn't catch on to the fight thus far, most of the battle is just RNG, which for an RPG can be expected. We'll get into that a bit later on in the criticism section. Here is our red dragon, Ger Garun. I do not like Garun, Charlie. His smug aura mocks me. Garun here is a nuisance because of one move, and one move in particular. Abandon. What does Abandon do? It gives you a status effect called Drain. Observe as I forget what it does, and pay the price, and before you ask, it is still that fast even with my increased HP pool. Then I got after this. I wanted to do a limit so that I wouldn't, completely annihilate the boss, but then I was promptly reminded of Abandon's existence, like a mosquito buzzing around my ear. I'll leave you with Garun 3.0 and then get to Algo. Absolutely horrific, and my eyes are burnt. So after that, we've won, right? Wrong. We have one final boss. My favorite, but first, Algo. This one here is a bit of a loss for our ware seller, save for coffee power-up. It's good early game and keeps it worth throughout most of the game. Money Finder at this stage isn't worth it, but if you don't want to farm in the subnets, it'll spawn more red chips. Critical hit chance, self-explanatory, this is as busted as it sounds. Dragon power-up increases the strength of Dragon in its respective minigame. Fun Road, more time is self-explanatory and it's the only minigame with a time limit. Now you might be wondering, or rather criticizing me for my choice of just showing the bosses with no additional commentary. First, most of what you have seen is hard to describe without a visual example. Second, the sheer amount of what is going on lends itself to better being visually shown rather than commentated over. Third, I have a massive skill issue with wording, surprising no one. And I am not rewriting my script for the upteenth time. It's the 7th iteration, we will work or we will crash. Lastly, I lied. This isn't the final boss, but it's the fastest challenge yet. Not the hardest. He's coming up soon. Viren is both my favorite boss and my biggest pain point for the Desolate Hope. See, after you beat every boss, each simulation will have one final boss to face. Viren is that last hurdle before the true final boss, but in order to get to him, you need an ability. Here is where Uunom comes back because of Fourth Sight. See, I'll say it right now, you shouldn't lock a segment of the game behind an in-game pay gate, or paywall in this instance. Especially if you don't know of its existence. Yes, this is a mandatory purchase if you want to beat the game and don't get a hint of it being the solution. Or you get, my scanners are being blocked, I can't find the virus. So, understandably, you think that mean go explore and find it by yourself. You'd only be half right. Foresight, as said before, is a mandatory purchase. Without it, you'll have no idea what to do. So, head back to Uunom and give him 1,000 chips, or 2,000 if you didn't get half price. I suggest you get half price. Then you'll see these blue orbs. Technically turquoise and dark turquoise, but splitting hairs. Here is his location, and here is the 4.0 fight. And before you ask, yes, I got 3,000 health. How? This guy, Jedmed. I farmed up 15,000 chips just to show you how strong he is and give myself some breathing room. It's hectic. Guess what? We are beating the last boss, and I'm going to do some commentary, or rather criticism while we fight him. Off to Amos's room and into the final boss. This is Pulsar, out here asking,
how do I get out of this chicken shit outfit?
Pulsar is not fun to fight. Not because it's just doing the same thing over and over again, more so because of another Terro ability, Cosmic Sponge. But before that, we have to set some ground rules for criticism that I'm following. I'll be using John Updike's rules for criticism here, from his book, Picked Up Pieces. In specific, I'll primarily be focusing on Rule 1 and shutting the other rules. The reason for such is that I have no real criticism for anything else but the gameplay itself, and in general, just the audio mixing being hard in the ears. Bold statement coming from myself, I know. For the uninitiated, the first rule of criticism within Picked Up Pieces is thus, quote, try to understand what the author wished to do and do not blame him for not achieving what he did not attempt. With that, back to Cosmic Sponge. Cosmic Sponge is a healing spell. How much does it heal? Every bit of HP. See, I play some convenient black bars here to add some suspense. See, Pulsar has 250,000 HP. Yes, that means if he uses this move at let's say 5,000 for instance, it's back to the start for you. Only counter to this is the tweak conditional, which then runs afoul of how Boxcar works. Boxcar, from what the game puts forth, is player choice. You control what you want and there is no, quote, wrong choice. Yeah, certain combinations will be optimal or suboptimal, but that's up to you to discover. This is the only time the game runs afoul, but still, it seems to me an oversight. Next is the overabundance of effects and sounds and just basic clarity. This is a secondary reason why I chose to show you all the boss fights only. The number of things just going on is a big issue for those with photosensitivity and epilepsy, but that's because of a secondary concern compared to the first. Bad, but the bigger issue is clarity, to repeat myself. In an RPG, especially one which is real-time, clarity is absolutely necessary. For a turn-based game, you can reasonably get away with this, but in real time that second-to-second awareness is imperative to a good experience. And yes, skill should be considered, but it should never be an excuse. I consider myself adequate, but most of my hiccups are the rampant effects. Credit where credit is due. Each sound and bright flashing light does look nice, but I feel it was too much of a focus. But the one ability which the bosses have is Hackworm. Hackworm needs to do something entirely different because as it isn't fair to the player and is more a gotcha move than you can reasonably react to. Also, the eye strain inflicted is no good. Instead, let's shift Hackworm's effects to be twisting around the derelict's abilities. So if it triggers, then Malenz's abilities will be randomized and he may get moves from Bio Beta. It's still a hindrance, but now you can at least have some inkling of a fighting chance, and it's better for clarity in what the move actually does. Because as it is right now, Hackworm just blinds you. Audio mastering is my next big issue. Certain sounds are incredibly loud, whereas others are soft. Most are far too loud. Even with my headphones and altering volume with Windows volume settings, it's still loud. You should always be cautious when tampering with volume, whether playing or making, as certain levels, which may seem fine at first, may trigger a twinge of tinnitus or flat out blow someone's ears to pieces. Mine included. The boss battles suffer greatly from this as there is no attenuation, and as such sounds can stack and overwhelm you. Attenuation meaning thinning sounds out. So in the case of three things happening, they don't all play at the same hit sound cue, but instead ramps up and plays them out over a period of time. And in the case of multiple hits, multi-hits take priority and play a different sound instead of replaying the same sound, perhaps improving quality. Next, bosses. I think that Viren appearing 4 times throughout each simulation is terrible. The boss fights themselves could be more distinct, but I think that Manatee and Terro would have served better if they were back-to-back in the same simulation. Essentially, the boss lineup for a simulation wouldn't just be 1.0, 2.0 of the same boss. Instead, it'd be Terro 1.0, and then Manatee 1.0, and then Terro 2.0, then Manatee 2.0, by themselves, and then perhaps as a team-up for a final crescendo, maybe, at the end. Then you could have Viren appear as the final thing to be a skill test before the de facto final boss. The same goes for Puppeton and Ger Garun being an increase in difficulty for Bio Beta and Alphus. I believe it helped the game flow better. As it is now, the bosses are pretty much the same in what they do, and while simplicity can deliver results, a bit of flair would help. That and a duo fight would be a good test. Now, Pulsar can keep most of everything. Just giving every move is fine and dandy, but Cosmic Sponge needs to go. You can't have a move that invalidates everything a player strives towards, especially by random chance. If it was instead at thresholds, it would be a bit better, still annoying, but it could be much easier to deal with. I had an idea of retooling of the ability, basically stealing the derelict's abilities through designated points throughout the fight until you had the basics. So 200,000, 105,000, you know, that stuff. That'd make him interesting, but then that is troublesome because no ability would have done this, save Hackworm previously, with this change, but even then, that's more randomized with its balancing idea. But this itself has the massive issues still, and still seems unfair in my mind, but maybe it's fine for somebody else. So I can only ask for it to be removed, which is the best I can give. No one likes gotcha moments in gameplay, it's not fair to people. Aside from that, that's pretty much it. I've no further criticisms, and our count of problems, at least to me, or rather, count for criticism, is 4, which for the first video of its kind, not too bad. I'm pretty happy with the result, though I hope the time investment was worth it. Oh, who am I kidding? This will probably be a footnote for someone in the future. I'll see you later. Bye-bye!